please hit that subscribe button. Hey everybody, better suited to win the Stanley Cup this season. If you are new to the channel, Washington Capitals, the Boston Bruins.
Locked on and he scored! And we're live.
Hey everybody, we're back with another lineup projection video. We have only got a couple more to go, and we're finishing up the Eastern Conference today with the current #1 seed, although that could change in the round robin, the Boston Bruins. So obviously this is a team I know very well. What I do is I go through their lineup. I have their training camp roster and everyone in, and I go through and try and put together what their lineup could look like when hockey does return at the beginning of August and they start playing their round robin series and then round robin games. It's not really a series, and then into the playoffs. So before I begin, I just ask that you please hit that subscribe button if you're new, and give this video a thumbs up if you haven't already, as those likes really help out the channel a lot and are very much appreciated. But let's switch over to the cap-friendly screen here and take a look at the Boston Bruins. So Boston started playing around with their lines after the trade deadline. They really started messing with different things and trying people on different lines and stuff, with the exception of their first line. That Marchand, Bergeron, Pastrnak line is set in stone. That does not change unless it's an in-game adjustment and when things are going really bad. We really didn't even see it much this year, if at all. But in the past, Bruce Cassidy has dropped Pastrnak down to play with David Krejci if things were going really bad, but at no point this season were things ever really going that bad for Boston. And that top line is set in stone. It's Marchand, Bergeron, Pastrnak. That is not changing. The rest of these lines, they did start to play around with towards the end of the year, but I think they're going to go back to what is normal, what their usual places are. And that is going to be Jake Debrusk on the left side of David Krejci. Again, that right wing spot has been up in the air for the last number of years. Ondrej Kase is in there now, and I think he's going to stay there. Obviously picked him up right before the trade deadline. I think Kase is going to play with Krejci and Debrusk, and that will be their second line. Third line then, Charlie Coyle, obviously in the middle. At times, Coyle has gone up and played that right side next to Krejci. But they need him to be the third-line center. They need Charlie Coyle to be the third-line center, not spending him on the wing up on the second line. If they're going to have at least 3 solid scoring lines, Coyle's got to center that third line. And then I think Bjork will play on the right side. He can play both sides. And Nick Ritchie will play the left side on that third line. He gives you more offensive output, or potential at least, than really any of these other guys that they could put in there. So Ritchie, not on the fourth line. He had played a little bit on the fourth line at the end of the season. I think he's going to get that third line spot. And then the fourth line will be Sean Kuraly in the middle with Joakim Nordstrom on the left side and Chris Wagner on the right. That leaves Par Lindholm as your kind of first extra forward. Carson Coolman's another guy. He plays right wing, that at times has been in the lineup and has played on the right side of that second line. Now with Kase there, I think that knocks Coolman out of the lineup. But, you know, he could potentially go in for Bjork if needed, if things go bad or anything like that. You've got the 2 youngsters at center, Jack Studnicka and Trent Frederick, both high-end prospects for the Bruins. I don't think they're going to, I mean, obviously they're not going to play normally. I think it would take an injury for one of them to get into the lineup. But, you know, they're highly touted prospects that could get a look if Bruins do need depth. Anton Bleed, good bottom 6 winger, kind of a fourth-line guy. Bit of a banger, not somebody that's going to give you a lot of offense, but certainly high effort level. You know, he would slot in, I think, on a fourth-line wing if someone were to come out of the lineup. And Zach Senyshyn, former first-round pick, who has been really disappointing overall. He at least got the call up for this, and, you know, I doubt we see him, but he'll be up there. And Paul Carey is an AHL veteran, great guy in the minors, but pretty much a depth guy for the Bruins as far as the organization is concerned. Moving on to D and goaltending. Well, goaltending, obviously, Tuukka Rask is your starter, Yaroslav Halak is your backup, and I think Dan Vladar will be kept as a third goaltender. They do have Maxime Lagacé up in camp, but they're only probably going to bring 3 goaltenders to phase 4. And I think Vladar will be the guy. He led the AHL in both goals against average and save percentage this season with Providence. So, I mean, he looks like a guy that could be an NHL goaltender very, very soon. On D, they've got a couple options as far as the last D spot goes, but I think for the most part, this D is set. Chara and McAvoy play together, have been all season. Carlo and Krug play together, have been all season. Grzelcyk is obviously in the lineup. And then it really comes down to this spot right here. Actually, I'm going to put Lausanne ahead of Vakanainen. Not ahead of Grzelcyk, though. This spot right here. Now, John Moore could be in that spot. We've seen him there. He can switch over to the right side and play there. Moore can play both sides. He has his whole career. Connor Clifton could potentially be in that spot. He missed a lot of this year with injury, but, you know, hopefully he's back. He is back healthy now. So he could potentially play there, or Jeremy Lausanne can move over to that right side and potentially play there. And when Moore was out injured, we saw Lausanne in that spot. So that's also very much a possibility. So I think they'll probably start with Moore there. Moore's a veteran. He's been in the league now for quite some time, and he's a good depth D-man. So I think you probably see Moore there, but just know that they have options with that last D spot. And then Urho Vakanainen and Jakub Zaboro got called up from Providence. They really haven't played any significant time in the NHL, but they're, you know, some of the top D-men down with the Providence Bruins. And then Kevin Miller, I don't even know why Cap Friendly even still has him up here. Miller is missed the entire season with knee problems, and I would honestly be surprised if he even ever plays again. So he's on the injured list. He won't be participating. But yeah, this is the Bruins lineup, guys. And I'm, as someone who watches this team on a nightly basis, I'm pretty sure this is what it's going to be. Again, they did start like at points. Richie was on the left side there, and Debrusk dropped to the third line with Coyle. Like, they were playing around with the lines a lot towards the end of the season. But I think now that it's real and it's playoff time and it's time to get going, what we have right here is your best Bruins lineup. This is what the Bruins should look like at full strength, and I think obviously they're a good team. And then these D pairs, I mean, it's been this all season long. There's, with the exception of this last right D spot on the third pair, which again they have 3 different options to slot in there. It's been that all season long. That top 4 is very consistent. And then Grzelcyk, never a guy that comes out of the lineup. He's been that third pair left side all year. So it's really up to this last spot where they have an option. But I think Moore will at least start. And then you could go to Clifton or Lausanne if needed. But for the most part, I think this Bruins lineup is pretty well set. And then obviously you have all your extra guys. So Boston won the President's Trophy this year. We're the only 100-point team that hit 100 points in the abbreviated season. And obviously went to the Stanley Cup Finals last year, losing to St. Louis. So they're a good team. Again, I am a Bruins fan. I don't see them winning the Cup this year. I just don't. I don't see them getting past Tampa Bay or Washington personally. I think those are 2 teams that just have Boston's number in a lot of ways, and particularly Washington. But you never know. One thing about playoff hockey is it's incredibly unpredictable. And even though Boston has a streak against Washington, where I think they've only beaten Washington twice in the past, 6 years, they really struggle against the Capitals. But things like that get broken. And sometimes it is a playoff series that breaks it. And all of a sudden, if Boston beats Washington in a 7-game playoff series this year, all of a sudden that whole narrative is gone, and you go, whoa, what just happened? It's like when Washington couldn't beat Pittsburgh in the playoffs for how many years, and then Washington finally won in 2018, and it's like Boston can't beat Washington regular season or playoffs, but eventually that could change. So I'm certainly not saying that Boston can't win. They're 100% a contender. They're one of the best teams in the league for a reason. I'm just not picking them to win personally, but there's no doubt they still have a very, very good team. And are with that, certainly one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference. So we'll see what they look like. We'll see if they come out of the gate, kind of ready to go and with that sense of urgency, or if they kind of lag behind a little bit or maybe slow out of the start. Again, it's going to be interesting to see that with all of these teams. Who's able to come out ready to play and who does it take a little bit to get going, because at least for the round robin teams, you know, you don't have a chance of falling out of the playoffs. Like the worst thing that can happen is you drop to the 4 seed if you start slow. For the play-in teams, if you start slow, your season's over because you'll be gone like that. So, you know, again, it's just interesting and it's something to definitely keep an eye on and watch. But with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description below. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.